for the greatest show in the history of great fucking shows.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, come on.
Okay, here we are in studio. We got with my main man Rob T-Bone, also Kalib Starnes, 5-time UFC veteran, and he's got the Kitsilano Bomber. Cole the Kitsilano Bomber.
You have a hard time with that word, eh?
That's a nice
Kitsilano.
Throwing bombs.
Okay, so what got you into fighting, Kalib?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a complicated question, but I guess, growing up, just grew up in an environment where there was a fair amount of violence around. I'd wake up on the floor, not know how I got there, pull myself over to some furniture, kind of clear my head. Gradually, things start coming back. Or I'd see my mom getting beaten up, try to go in and try to intervene, not be able to do that as a young kid, and getting ridiculed, thrown, bounced off the walls. So I grew up in a real serious, like a lot of violence in the home. Wasn't my biological father. No. Mother left my father before I was born. So growing up like that, like a lot of kids, face that kind of thing in the home, domestic violence, that type of stuff. And so I think that was probably the initial trigger that got me into wanting to be able to protect myself, protect the people around me, and started me training at an early age. I would start training myself as a kid, as a young kid, to try to be able to protect myself. Yeah.
Like doing what?
Well, I would just go outside and practice like kicking or punching or lifting things or climbing things. Whatever I could envision as a child would protect me from that guy when someone came to try to beat me up or abuse me, how I would defend myself. And I would practice it as a kid, even though it was hopeless at the time. I was like, 60, 70 pounds and 4 years old. I was 5 years old.
Heart of a fighter.
Little kid trying to figure out how to, fight off a grown man.
Yeah.
So that's how it started, and then just kind of progressed from there over the years, I guess.
Do you think that that sort of will is something that is present in a lot of fighters in the sense of when situation was happening to you, instead of you just accepting that you were powerless to it, you tried to overcome and figure out how you could be on the upper hand of that and how you could really change those things? It takes a certain type of person for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, a lot of fighters would be like that, right? Not wanting to just, lay down and accept what was happening to you, thinking I might be able to think my way out of this, or
it'll be over soon,
train my way out of this somehow. I can change this. The idea that you could change your circumstances in some way and get out of the situation that you're in, trying to escape the situation you're in. Yeah,
and it just takes hard work, I guess.
So what was the first martial art you ever took then?
If I remember correctly, my mom took me down to some kung fu classes that were in Wally here. I took kung fu, I think, as a little kid, and was doing that. Mostly back then there wasn't any really, there was MMA wasn't a thing. The UFC hadn't happened. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu hadn't really come to the United States in a big way. It certainly hadn't come to Canada, on a large scale.
Yeah, people were hating on it.
Bruce Lee movies.
Yeah, it was Bruce Lee movies.
Everyone just wanted karate.
Me and boxing. I grew up watch Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard and Sugar Ray Robinson and
the goats.
Yeah, just that was pretty much what I thought fighting was back then, right?
So dealing with all that stuff at home, when you got to school and stuff like that, would you feel that type of anger? Would you want to take that out on other kids, or would you were you a nice kid who kind of knew how to regulate those emotions and just kept working to?
Not so much. I wasn't. I think I was more. I was bullied more and picked on, and kind of that kind of thing. Yeah. Going through school, and I remember, like I had a teacher It sticks out in my mind as something that kind of affected the way that I thought too. Was I had a teacher named Mr. Cobley, and I remember being about 12, I guess, at the time, and him coming. I come into school and he dumps all my shit out of my desk all over the floor and tells me to clean it up. And then so I start cleaning it up, and I remember walking by. I was crumpling up this paper, throwing it in the trash can, and the kids in the class started kind of giggling when I crumpled it up, because I guess it seemed like I was being defiant, but I really wasn't. I was just crumpling this paper up when I walked by him. And then that made him enraged, and he just kind of grabbed me and picked me up off the ground and just rage slammed me off the wall for, I don't know, a good 20, 30 times. Just kept going, bang, 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 and sent me to the office, and the principal sent me home. I mean, it was a different time. I didn't have anybody really to stick up for me or to go there. I mean, if that happened today, you get multi-million-dollar settlement.
Oh yeah, you would have been sitting pretty forever.
Yeah, but that's not the way it happened. I just got suspended for a week.
Yeah, of course
back. I got lectured and ridiculed and fucking
more fuel to the fire, though, eh?
Yeah, and just a general mistrust of, you know, people, and just, you know, I realized that anybody, any authority figure in my life could be like that.
Yeah,
you know, and no one was going to protect me but me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was very, very angry about that for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 12 years old, and I'd be watching that guy walk to his car, and I'd watch which car that he drove, and I'd think about going back and like clubbing him in the head with a bat when he went to his car. Like, I was really not happy about it. Yeah. And I mean, who would be? And just the thought of doing that, I mean, it's disturbing to think back, like, that I was actually thinking like that as a 12-year-old kid.
The guy was hurting your mom and hurting you. You can't really blame you for feeling that way.
It's the teacher.
That's the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just, you know, those kinds of situations. I remember multiple times being circle beat and kicked in the head as a little kid.
Jeez.
Just going home from school by, you know, 5, 6 kids at a time, like that kind of thing. It was a different era too.
Wally wasn't the most welcoming place.
I wasn't actually Wally. It was on the other side of the freeway there. Yeah, it was Irma Stevenson was my elementary school.
Okay.
Irma Stevenson.
Well, it adds a lot of context to hear that story, because just knowing you, you're a really nice guy. You have a really gentle demeanor, so it makes a lot of sense that it came from a place of necessity, you becoming this sort of great fighter. So appreciate you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, just don't wrong him, because he'd be thinking about hitting you with a bat.
Yeah.
Don't think like that. No, I was 12.
Flashbacks.
Yeah.
There wasn't much I could do.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your high school years like?
Well, I didn't. I was really interested in you know, social hierarchies, the structure of the school, decision-making processes in organizations and institutions, and institutional analysis and that kind of thing. And I wasn't really interested too much in the curriculum that I was studying at school. And I got really, really interested in the Holocaust at a young age, about 14 years old. And I started skipping out of school and going to the library and reading about the Holocaust. And I got caught skipping out of school, and they took me down to the office, the principal, and caught me skipping out. He just thought I was out hanging out in the park or doing something, drinking or partying with my friends or something. And then I had to prove to him with my library records where I was, and he didn't really know what to do with that, because he was just going to discipline me. But then why are you leaving school to read about the Holocaust?
Yeah.
And I got, so anyway, he took me and sent me to the counselor, and they gave me a bunch of tests and stuff. And then I ended up finishing my grade 8 year. I just had to, I got to come and go as I pleased. I actually had a really good counselor. And I could go to the adult education center, and as long as I finished all the, you know, went through the curriculum and did the tests that I was supposed to do, they would pass me, and they did. And then I ended up skipping the next grade and going into grade 10. So I skipped grade 9. But it was one thing, I remember this image really clearly. It was an image of a guy standing at a table at a bandsaw, and he was sawing bodies in half during the Holocaust, right? That was his job. And there was a big pit behind him, and there was all these, there was bulldozers there. It was bulldozing bodies into these big mass graves. And I didn't understand why he was sawing them in half at the time until later on in life. I watched the Nuremberg trials and I figured out actually why he was sawing these people in half across the waist. And it was probably like Stalingrad or sometime like that when there was a lot of bodies piling up and then they were thawing out and they had to cut them in half across the waist to prevent them from kind of like exploding after.
Disgusting.
Yeah, really gross
So-
and really disturbing. And as a kid, that image stuck in my mind
Of
because
course, yeah.
I was always really interested in, like I said, social hierarchies and why people do what they're told to do,
Or how
why
some-
people
yeah.
follow the rules, why do people enforce unjust laws, why do people join armies, why did they round up all these people or put
Yeah,
them in
how did something that
concentration
atrocious
camps
happen?
and kill
you know?
them, or why do people do things like that, you
Yeah.
know? And
And that started from the power dynamic that you were facing at home.
I think maybe something like that. And I just, so I wanted to understand why and who that guy was. And did he have a family and go home at night and just make dinner and play fetch with his dog and sit there and
Jesus.
read to his kids after doing that kind of a job all day long?
Yeah,
I
it's-
couldn't understand it. But, you know, if you're a
hard to
soldier
understand.
getting sent to Vietnam or getting sent to, Iraq or someplace or Afghanistan and you're going around and you realize that, hey, what I'm doing isn't what they're saying
Yeah.
on the news. What I'm doing is like going house to house and going into people's homes and arresting them and killing them and that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard to understand why people do that kind of, engage in that kind of behavior, you know?
Yeah, sure. At what point did you think that you could be a professional fighter?
Well,
Did you
I guess
always think it?
I had enjoyed a lot of success fighting.
Yeah.
Like I won almost all my fights once I, matured to the point where I was physically mature, and which
Yeah.
was pretty young, maybe 15.
You were a
years
big
old,
kid
16.
always, though.
I grew up pretty quick and I was athletic. Yeah. So I was fighting. I could fight grown men when I was in my early teens,
Yeah.
and then fighting. I think my first 10 fights I had, I never got hit maybe more than 10 times. There was a couple fights where I got leg kicked over one fight, but that was about it. I never really got hurt. I was really successful.
So right away you knew you had an affinity for fighting. You knew that
Yeah,
was
I knew
something
I
you were
could
good
do
at.
it. And then I think what really drove me too is just looking around at the world, just the monotony of life, man, like traffic jams and time clocks and jobs you don't want to be at, and that sensation. I remember I worked a lot of construction jobs and that type of thing growing up as a teenager, like rebar,
That's hard.
carp-
Rebar's hard stuff.
carpentry, and all these different things, landscaping, all these different kinds of jobs, I'd
Yeah.
go to one for a while. I'd realize, like, if this is my life and I'm sitting here doing this thing that I don't want to do all day long, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I can't
sure.
do this. I would rather do anything else.
Yeah.
I would have rather
I've had that.
rob
for sure.
banks or do to anything else that I
Yeah.
could to not be in that situation. And it became worse and worse and worse, that feeling, the more I understood the world, the more I understood
Mhm.
economics and money creation and how things work and how rigged the game is
Mhm.
against the average person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and how it's kind of ran. It's like a closed system. It's ran by a big club, and we're not part of that big
Yeah.
club.
100%.
If you're born into a poor family, you don't have a fucking, stable home and a lot of money at home and a, stock portfolio
Yeah.
and money for college and university and, where are you really going? Most people, I mean, it's the social mobility and economic mobility.
Mhm.
If you actually look at the numbers, it's more of a myth than anything, right? The American dream, they
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
The idea. I mean, it can happen. It can happen.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it never happens, but I'm
Mhm.
saying that statistically, if you actually look at the numbers, the
It's a lot
odds
of
are
luck
really
and timing
stacked
when it
against you.
happens.
If you're born poor, you're probably going to die poor.
Yeah.
That's just the reality, right? I mean,
Yeah.
through exceptional luck or exceptional gifts, some people are blessed with unusual talents and
Yeah.
different
Like you.
interpersonal relationships, that type of thing. Maybe you'll be able to get out of your economic circumstance, but I think honestly, that's why. That's what motivated me to do it, just to get out of the reality of growing
So-
up poor in Surrey with no really, no father really, and actively involved in my life, and mother not really that active, And what was I going to do?
Yeah.
Where was
Yeah.
I going to go?
Let's talk about your training for a second. How old were you when you went down and trained with the Gracies?
I started going down there in 1994. That's when I started. And my first classes were with...
How old were you then?
I think I was 19. My first classes were with Boyce Gracie and Florian Gracie and Alio Gracie and another gentleman at the time, I believe his name was Lowell Anderson. I trained also with Kaike, Enrique Alias, and some of the other, instructors that they had in through there. Richard, I can't remember all their names now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a while ago, right? We're reaching back here like 26 years, 25 years.
Yeah, basically before they were even popular, the Gracies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there
Like
was
this.
no Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Canada,
That's
really not really established yet, not
Yeah.
really Gracie Jiu-Jitsu even in the United States in a big it just started, right? They
Yeah.
just kind of come to California and started moving up there. I mean, not that there was no people training in the States earlier than that, because I'm sure there was, the odd person that interacted with the family. The Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy, I believe, was established in like 1925 in
Oh, wow.
Brazil.
In Brazil, yeah.
Yeah. So they had been going down there for a while. Brazil, there was a politician, Gustavo Gracie, and I believe he helped establish the first largest emigration colony outside of anywhere in the world for people from Japan. So he helped a lot of Japanese people move to Brazil and get established there. And so as a show kind of friendship and, solidarity with him, and they sent some of the best jiu-jitsu and judo instructors to Brazil, and they trained the family.
Oh,
You know?
wow.
So I think it was, correct, I don't know the exact history. I'm thinking Helio Gracie, Carlos Gracie, and their brothers, they all trained under this guy, eventually built this family up of like 40 black belts. I think the one,
Jesus.
Carlson Gracie,
The Empire.
I believe he had 21 kids with 7 different women. And Helio Gracie ended up training.
Was that for the
training all of
legacy?
them. Yeah, I think so, man.
That's
And
pretty badass.
I don't know exactly. I don't know the guy personally. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And I think Alio Gracie had 7 kids, and almost all of them ended up becoming, black belts in jiu-jitsu and training people. Yeah.
Now, let's reverse a little bit. What made
Okay.
you decide go bing? I'm gonna travel down to L.A. and train with the Gracies. I mean, who does that at 19 years old, right? Did you watch the UFC before that and go, I want to learn that, or?
Yeah,
Walk us
I
through
was
that.
training and teaching and doing what I could, and I was looking around, and I'd never seen anything like that before. Like watching Royce Gracie in the early UFCs, that was the first I'd ever seen of something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I wanted to try it and see if it was real and what it was like. So I saved up money and I moved down to Los Angeles for a while and lived down there, and I lived in a little $400 a month shared bathroom hotel with no kitchen in it, and just went and trained all day. I went for, I'd go in the morning for 4 hours or so and take a break in the afternoon, and then come back and train all the classes in the evening.
So basically like a professional athlete already,
Yeah.
training wise.
Yeah. At that time,
Yeah.
the Gracie Academy, they had a program where you could pay I can't remember what it was. It was like I was really cheap when I think about how it
Yeah.
was. It was like $300 or $400 or something a month, and I could train as much as I wanted.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, at first, I'm just like a Canadian kid coming down there, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't speak Brazilian Portuguese or anything. So it took a while, but after, I'd show up every day and getting beat up for 7 hours a day, and still kind of sticking around for months at a time. I think people were
Shows
really
character.
kind, and
Yeah.
they really opened up, and it was a really good experience for me.
Awesome. Were they rough on you though? Were they like, oh, look at this Canadian kid, let's just kick the shit out of him a little bit more?
Everybody
Yeah.
is like that when you go to someplace new, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
you're an out of town kind of guy. But they were always gentlemen, and I learned a lot from being there and being exposed to that. And I really came to respect the history and the family and the reality of what they were doing. Like, you go to a lot of these gyms and it's really fake or that kind of thing, but that was all about the reality of it. Like how to, they put you in a position, like, I don't know if people listening don't know what jiu-jitsu really about jiu-jitsu or what it is, but if you're put in a position like the mount or the side mount and you have to get out from the bottom, you learn pretty quick if you actually know how to get out from the bottom or not. There's no faking it. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
you
why
either
fighting's so
can
special.
do it or you
Or
can't do it. And that's what made jiu-jitsu different from a lot of the martial arts of the day, because a lot of the stuff was just phony. It was all fake. I mean, you see those clips on the internet where, a grandmaster in
Gets
some of
worked.
these martial arts goes up and actually fights a guy who knows how to just throw a good right hand and just gets planted.
They literally just learn a dance. They're doing a cadence.
You
and
can't ward them off with your chi energy.
Yeah.
I love those videos.
That's not real.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever gives you confidence, I guess.
Yeah.
And now, once you were done the training and you were confident enough to, like, after you were done down in LA, what belt did you receive? Were you a belt?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
They got up to like purple belt.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And I
So
went-
jujitsu is your base?
No, my base was. I told you I started training when I was like a little kid. That was my base, and I had a lot of actual fights, or a lot of real fights.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of street
Street
fights.
fights.
What would you lean towards in your fights? Would you be on your feet a lot, or would you take people down a lot, or what was your main
Well,
sort of thing you would go to?
I mean,
before you had all the
honestly,
training?
I would try to hit hard and fast and put them and get them. It's street fighting is different.
Yeah.
Hit first, hit fast, hit
Yeah.
often,
Yeah.
and then get
And
out of
finish.
there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
get the fuck
Yeah,
out.
get out of there. Try to finish it as quick as possible, and then leave the
Yeah.
scene as quick as possible. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just
run
the
away.
reality of it.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so like after you're back up here and you're a purple belt, you said? Purple belt?
Yeah, something like that. I wasn't, and I mean, like, not even really concerned about belts, because jiu-jitsu and a gi and MMA, the training for it, are different. When you train for MMA, you don't wear a gi
Yeah.
that much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's different.
Yeah.
So I was
Different
training,
animal.
and by then I was training wrestling and Muay Thai and boxing and all those things. So it's a lot different. And I honestly didn't train in a gi for maybe 8 years or so. I just stopped. That was
Totally
that was
different game,
irrelevant. All right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally different game.
yeah. And when you take the gi off, you lose about 80% of the technique. Like,
Yeah, I've heard there's some guys that can roll like crazy with the gis on, and without them, they don't know what to do.
yeah, it's different, right? It's a different game. I appreciate training in the gi, don't get me wrong, and the
Mhm.
tradition of it. And for self-defense, I mean, you're wearing clothes, you're
Yeah,
wearing
yeah,
pants,
yeah.
you're wearing a jacket,
Yeah.
a shirt. So learning how to do that's all cool. I like learning it all, right? I got my, my black belt and my degrees or whatever in it, but I still prefer training with no gi.
Yeah.
I like the flow of it. I like
More
the
realistic,
style.
I guess.
Yeah, I just enjoy it more personally. It's really hard for those who know. It's really hard on your joints too, man. Your fingers, your knuckles.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
break fingers, can't you?
Oh
when it
yeah,
gets
and it's
wrapped
very
grip strength.
abrasive. The
That
gi
grip
after a while,
strength.
like half the battle becomes removing someone's hand from your gi.
Don't
lapel
forget your ears.
or whatever. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You got some nice cauliflower ears getting out of these gi kind of headlocks and guillotine chokes, and yeah.
So I have
Good
I have another question here. So okay, now you're pretty much fight. When did you decide, Kalib Starnes, I'm jumping into the ring and I'm gonna do this as a profession?
I think it was just like I say, like the day-to-day grind of life, the monotony of life, the 9-to-5 jobs, the bosses I didn't like, the fucking traffic jams, the working at an environment I didn't want to be in, and that was it, man. It was like,
Felt like a way out of the power struggle.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just I've had enough, and now I'm gonna take a swing at this. I'm gonna take a chance, and I'll just train full time, and I'll throw myself into it 100%. And then if I fail, at least I tried.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do it, I would regret not trying later on.
Yeah.
You're basically betting on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're
And
all
when
in.
you're going all in on
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
And
you knew the other
either
was-
make it or you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's life. And like, you like a lot of artists go through that, right? Whatever
Mhm.
art you're into, you're a painter, you're a writer, you're a, a musician or whatever, and you really want to do something, you got to throw yourself at it full time, 100%, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Something like this, you can't fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't fake it.
That's really the overarching part.
You don't find yourself in a cage when you haven't been able to train because
Yeah.
you've been working too many hours and you're tired.
That's
after
what
work.
fighting's so natural and freeing form is. There's no bullshit. It's just all real.
Yep. So now you're okay. Your first fight, did you have to travel across the country for that, or
No,
was it here in
well, I
BC?
mean, there was no. You this is a different era, man. This what there was.
Early 90s.
There was like, it was. There was no MMA organizations really in Canada that were doing anything. The first MMA fights here were held in BC on private land out in Langley. It was called the 10 Tumble. There was like just guy rounded up just all the tough guys from around here and threw them all in a ring with no time limit and no rules and no gloves, and it was just like
Yeah,
it was just
Jesus.
a free for all, no weight. There was a heavyweight tournament that I fought in on there. Yeah, and there was, in spite of how much everybody talks, not a lot of guys showed up.
Yeah, for sure.
When you were fighting,
It
did
was-
it start as like MMA fights, or would you like take a boxing fight here, do a jiu-jitsu match there, like
No,
whatever you could get kind of thing? Or
I did some, submission grappling kind of stuff, playing around, but it was just MMA, and there
Yeah.
was no amateur MMA. That wasn't
No.
a thing. Every fight was a real fight, and there was it was
awesome.
different, a different
Yeah.
time. There was no organization that even kept track of that event. It's
Yeah.
not even listed on SureDog. If you know where to look, if you're in the fight world, or you'd look
Yeah.
on SureDog or someplace to try to find out what someone's record is.
mm-hmm.
Or they'll try to put it on, Wikipedia will steal the information off of somewhere else.
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
will,
yeah.
I do that.
But there's no.
I have no idea who goes and edits my Wikipedia page, by the way. Whoever does that, they fucked up about half the information on
Well,
me
we
in
can
there.
change that. That's
None
the
of
beauty
it's
of
right.
Wikipedia.
That's awesome. Yeah, so basically, MMA was like boxers thought they were the best.
Yeah.
Street fighters thought they were the toughest. Kickboxers thought they were the best. It wasn't like how it is now, where everybody wants a tool. You want to do everything and be well rounded. It was like, oh, I'm the best. I'm a kickboxer from this place.
Yeah.
I'll beat your ass, and you're just a wrestler.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
that's
it was
that's a
kind-
good point. And I mean, that was part of the charm
Early
of the early
90s.
ones too, and
Yeah.
the interest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was like that, almost like that video game, Street Fighter or whatever.
Yeah.
Or
Everybody
these,
Totally.
or Mortal
art.
Kombat, where you
There's-
have these people with
yeah.
different styles and
Yeah.
different backgrounds.
Some
coming
guys would
against
just lift
sumo
weights
guys.
and just be super jacked, not even training. you know.
I lift
I don't
weights.
know.
So
Those
I'm the
guys
best.
didn't last.
Yeah, those guys didn't last. But at first we were like, well, maybe those will be the guys that win, you know? Nope, never mind.
I was pretty pissed when the ninja lost. That was it. I was fucking
Yeah, that
done.
really shook up the world when people
Your
realized
ninjutsu
ninjas
career was over. Hey.
weren't the end all be all with MMA.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
But I think people sort of found out that wrestling is pretty dominant in MMA, right? Am I right with that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
With a good, solid wrestling background, you can determine, where the fight's going to be.
Yeah.
And if you
Mhm.
want it standing, you can keep it standing. And if you want it on the ground, you can put it on the ground. And
Yeah.
that's a big advantage to have.
Like I look back at those first couple UFCs, like for instance when Dan Severn fought Hoist Gracie,
Yeah.
the guy didn't throw a fucking goddamn punch when he was on his back, right? But then you take a look at the way it progressed after that, and then you have Mark the Hammer Coleman or whatever his name is. I mean, when he had somebody on their back, he would just he'd put them down, and then he would just hammer
beat
the
them
shit
up,
out of
yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how
they
like
coined the
the
term
evolution.
like ground and pound. for
Yeah.
guys like that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Gracie
Yeah.
opened it up too because people thought that this little jiu-jitsu thing wasn't really real. Then they saw this guy beating everyone, and they were like, "Oh man, we need to learn this
I
shit."
fucking hated it when I first saw it. I was like, what
was
is
betting
this
against
shit?
it.
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was fake. They
Yeah,
thought it was rigged.
Yeah.
And I learned firsthand going
That it
down there
isn't.
that it wasn't. Yeah, because
That's
that was
awesome.
pretty tough. I thought it was pretty tough, and I would get there, and little skinny Brazilian guys would just strangle me over and over again,
Yeah.
tap me out, and I was
It's
like,
like
"Oh,
learning
it's
how to
real.
run on
It's
land,
real."
and then all of a sudden being like, "Come scuba dive,"
Yeah,
you know? It's a totally different world.
For
That's
sure.
awesome. That's crazy.
So it feels like everything kind of overarching here comes down to your interest and infatuation with power dynamics. And do you feel like what brought you really into the fighting world was you found a power dynamic that you knew you could actually change your status in and really actually move to the top instead of being stuck in one situation and one way of living? You knew you could kind of get to the top of that power dynamic if you worked hard enough?
I mean, it's an interesting question. I think people naturally gravitate towards areas where they're successful. People gravitate towards things, you know, where their natural talents and gifts take them. I feel like I like training people. I like that part of it too. It's a little more than that. I like to train people. I like to help people out. As a kid, I had an uncle that was very influential in my life, because growing up without a dad, growing up without that kind of a structured family, he would come after work, long days of work, all, you know, and he worked a hard job. He'd come there, all like work boots, you know, jeans all covered in dirt and hands dirty and tired, you know, burned out, putting in long days, like a real hard-working construction man, you know.
Yeah.
And he'd show up and come drop by. He'd come visit my grandmother, because my grandfather, you know, had passed away, and so he'd come and keep her company and visit her sometimes after work. And he knew I didn't have a dad, so he'd come and hang out with me, or sacrifice his time and, you know, play catch with me, or play soccer with me, or help me with whatever I was doing. I was always, you know, doing something. And so, like, you know, now I remember he died young. He died about 40 years old.
Oh,
and I remember thinking, like, about what his legacy was. What did he really leave behind? Who was he, you know, as a man? And I remember thinking about how the effect that he had on other people, the impact that he had on other people. I felt like that was sort of his legacy, and him, the effect and impact he had on my life. So to honor that memory, I try when I can to help other people and train them. So I probably spend right now about, you know, 3-4 hours a day, just training. You know, I train kids that don't have dads. I try to help my friends, you know, help people lose weight, help people work out, teach them self-defense. I really love teaching kids self-defense. I love teaching women self-defense.
Give them some freedom.
And I do a lot of that for free, and just try to, you know, give back to the community, help people out. A lot of these people maybe don't understand why I'm doing that or whatever, but I think the impact that I'll have on their lives, especially on
it's
kids,
invaluable.
they'll take that and they'll pass that on to somebody else, you know, and on it'll go, right? Pay it forward.
Nice.
And in that way, you know, respecting and you know, loving the memory of my uncle and the impacts that it had in my life. That's part of why I like training people, really, at this point. It doesn't have to, it has less to do, I'm beyond, well beyond the point where I'm concerned about being the best at something or being competitive.
Well, it's a really invaluable gift you're giving people. It really touches their lives.
Yeah, I don't want to,
big way.
I don't want to, yeah, I'm not concerned about, being the best in anything. I just want to give back and, you know, to try to improve people's lives, have good interactions with other people. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Now, I was reading your bio from the East Side Boxing Club here.
Yeah.
Now, you fought some pretty, like, big names out there, like, you know, Chris Lieben and all these other people. Now, are you friends with any of those people still? Do you still talk to them online or Facebook?
We're friends when we see each other, but it's like, you know, last I knew, he was living in Hawaii. I saw him there actually a couple times when I was out there fighting and traveling, and we get along, right? Or, you know, he was a good guy too. Afterwards, I wanted to, you know, come out and have a beer and just, you know, a lot of these people, you end up having some kind of a unique bond with somebody once you've fought them
Mutual
in a
respect.
situation like that. So you have a respect. Usually, you have a respect for each other if you're respectful to each other during the thing. You know, sometimes too you can have a fight with somebody like that, and then the animosity can grow if you're disrespectful to each other during it.
absolutely.
You know, you
Yeah.
see that kind of thing all the time. Like, what was a big famous one recently would be probably Khabib and
McGregor.
McGregor,
Yeah.
where that fight made the animosity even worse.
Yeah, that was.
And the lead up to it, right? They both were disrespectful to each other, and then
parents got involved. And
yeah, it can
camps
turn
wanted to kill each
it can
other.
turn ugly for sure.
Jesus.
Well, that's cool. So whenever you see them, it's like friendly and whatever.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
there'd
that's
be
awesome.
a mutual respect and
Is there anyone you wish you were closer with that you used to be close with in that world, or someone that you could?
Well, I mean, I guess with pretty much that's kind of I mean, with anybody, of course, anytime you have a relationship that's
Mhm.
fractured or gets broken apart, there should be, if you're an evolved human being, to want to fix that.
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
Make amends in some way.
Yeah.
But I don't really have any,
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah,
nothing
no one in
like that.
particular.
No, none of it really sticks out if you're
Yeah.
looking for some kind of a thing.
Yeah,
Are we going around
I love
holding
this
hands
guy,
with,
man.
with all these guys? No, you're not
Yeah,
gonna
I was
get
hoping
any
to
of
get a
that out of
little
buddy,
nugget there.
Right now, no.
A little nugget.
Yeah, because you were pretty much like, one of the toughest Canadian fighters.
Well, I
But
mean,
hands down, he was.
Yeah.
For sure. He
well,
still
I
is.
mean,
Mm.
I was probably one of the top middleweights in the country for almost 10 years, I guess, and I beat the number 2 heavyweight before. I beat the number 2 light heavyweight. So I fought in 3 weight classes at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
And
That's really impressive.
I had a hard time getting fights at middleweight after a while, and
You had a hard
or-
time getting
or
fights
light
a lot,
heavyweight,
eh?
yeah, or light heavyweight, and I ended up fighting heavyweights. I tried to fight the number 1 heavyweight, Smilinho Rama, multiple times, but he wouldn't accept the fight, or his management wouldn't accept the fight. And then I tried to fight. I wanted to fight the top light heavyweight, but that was Ryan Jimmo at the time. He was a great athlete, great Canadian fighter from the East Coast. And unfortunately, well, he was fighting in the UFC at the time, so I couldn't get a fight with him at that particular time partly because of that. And then he got run over, and really sadly, tragically, somebody ran him over in Alberta with a truck and killed him.
Wow. Rest
Yeah,
in
really
peace.
sad. Yeah, so it was that.
So do you feel like it was hard for you to find fights because everyone knew you were so dangerous, but like you weren't the biggest promotion ticket
Well,
seller, so it was like
this-
kind of a risk without a high reward for them?
Or
Absolutely.
if you're a
Yeah.
dangerous fighter, but you're kind of infamous too, and
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
some good
yeah.
fights, some bad fights, or whatever.
Mhm.
People don't want to lose; they want to protect their records. or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's what it
There's
seems like.
different
They're
reasons
cherry
why
picking.
people wouldn't
Cherry picking,
accept it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if any manager or a fighter thinks you're a pushover and they can get a fight with you, they will take it.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So obviously,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's what I
and I
described.
had name recognition and whatever.
Yeah.
So obviously,
they didn't
they
want to
didn't-
lose.
for one reason or another,
Yeah.
either because
didn't
they
have the
didn't
skill
want to
level
lose
you
to
have,
me because they thought I
would've
was a
taken it.
bum, or they didn't want to lose
Yeah.
to me because they thought I was underrated or whatever.
Mhm.
Whatever it was.
They knew you were no
I
walk
don't
in the
know
park.
what
I'm
goes through other
leaning
people's
towards you're
minds.
going to clobber them. And
Yeah.
That's why they didn't take
Yeah.
the fights.
Yeah, they're trying to cherry pick. They're not trying to fight someone they could lose to.
Okay, here we are back from our break. We're up in the Civic Hotel, up in the clouds. We're here with Kalib Starnes and the Kitsolano Bomber. So Kalib, I'd like to just go into a little direction, different direction. Okay, let me do that again. Sorry, doggy. So Kalib, I'd like to go in a different direction. I'd like to talk about head injuries.
Right.
Like when the camps are going at each other, like should they be going full tilt or should they just be laying off and kind of like, punching each other in the face when they're in the ring rather than practice?
Well, I mean, there's something to be learned from doing a bit of hard sparring. But it's not something you need to do all the time, certainly. Yeah, I think if you're looking at somebody who's a really top, high caliber fighter, a lot of times when they're going hard, they're bringing somebody in that they know they can dominate.
Yeah.
And they're just practicing landing those hard shots in succession and putting somebody away. And it's not pretty at that level of the game, being a sparring partner. You can imagine being Floyd Mayweather's sparring partner, or punching bag, if you will, or somebody like that. And who can really come in there and go hard with him at a fast pace? It's not like he's going to bring Manny Pacquiao or some top flight guy in for his sparring partner. Really, he's going to be taking somebody apart. And when you're getting in there, most of the damage I've seen is done in sparring. A lot of people get hurt in sparring. Go to those old school gyms. You're training with people that are, trying to put you away and going too hard. It really wears on you. It's terrible, right? Think of if you sparred twice a week, 6 rounds at a heavy pace, going hard. You're gonna get brain injury for sure. It's gonna wear on you. So I think it's also when you're hitting hard. I mean, as somebody that knows about fighting, when you're hitting hard, you tense up. You don't throw as many shots. You're more tentative and you're less willing to take risks if you think you might get hit really hard. So sometimes loosening up, going at a lighter pace, finding someone you can drill with, you get a lot more practice. You get a lot more work on your defense. You get a lot more work on, your movement, your counter punching, all that stuff. And so I don't think it's a positive thing. No.
How about you? Have you ever suffered like a concussion inside the ring or in sparring?
Well, certainly every time you suffer a traumatic blow to the head, you get some level of concussion from it.
Yeah. I get
and
that. But
everybody's a little different. I got really interested in it at one point. I was wondering, why do some people get concussed more than others? And when I was in Florida, I met a guy who ran an MRI clinic. So all day he was doing scans of people's brains, right?
Oh,
people that had been in car accidents or suffered falls and that type of thing. And I was asking him what kind of patterns he recognized in those people and experience and so on. He said a lot of the people that had recurring concussions had them in childhood and then would suffer them more easily. I know from watching fighters and knowing fighters personally, once they suffer 1 concussion, 2 concussions, 3 concussions, it's more easy for them to suffer concussions after that in the future. Once a fighter gets knocked out a few times, they're easier to knock out. And I met another fellow. Life extension science is a big deal in Florida. It's a big business. There's a lot of people, rich East Coasters, people retire down to Florida and they one of the guys I talked to that ran one of these clinics, he dealt with a lot of elderly people. Yeah. He told me that as a person ages, their brain kind of shrinks in relation to the size of their skull. And so when they fall, there's more room for their brain to bounce around inside their skull, and they suffer more brain bleeds and aneurysms and that type of thing. So I think it might be a combination of factors that lead somebody to be concussed and or lead people to get knocked out easier. As someone who's been, tired and trapped in different positions and repeatedly, there were times I wished I could have gone unconscious, but didn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's a touchy,
So it's a little bit
subject.
genetics too. There's some guys that you just can't really knock out, and then other people.
I think it's
Big
certainly
time.
some of it's genetic,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of it too is how you respond to the somatic symptoms of stress, just like managing fatigue and that type of thing. Like when you get hit, how do you react to it? Some people almost get a heavy anxiety. They almost go into shock when they get hit hard.
Yeah.
They're not sure how to manage it and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And other people get really calm or really angry or really focused when they get hit.
Yeah.
And I find that those type of people are less likely to suffer concussions too. I think some of it's like a neurological response. I don't know how well it's actually understood scientifically, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I could see that though.
Mm-hmm. Some people like it.
Absolutely.
Some people
Gets
like
them
it.
fired up.
Yeah, you hit them hard and they
Bum.
start smiling and
Oh,
they
yeah.
get right into it. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, here
Oh,
we
yeah.
go.
I'm like
Like,
that.
you know, there's guys, yeah, like fighters, it's well known. Oh,
Mhm.
this guy's a slow starter. You'll hear the commentator talking, and then one big, and all of a sudden the guy's like, oh yeah,
he's
it's
awake.
on now, you know?
You poke the bear.
Yeah, it's weird.
Oh, Cole, you said you're like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. I just know like when I get hit good, it kind of gets me excited and gets me more into it. I guess because I'm kind of always taking it kind of lightly. I don't want to really hit anyone good because I don't want to hurt anyone I'm sparring with. But if they get me real good, then I'm like, oh, okay. Like
It's on. It's
now
on.
I get to do
I
that.
can vouch for that. Yeah,
That's
true.
awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think certain type of people, it's kind of an exciting. It's more raw. When you feel yourself being put in those positions, it gives you more fuel for competition. It makes you more excited to be in there. And I think some people just run away from it and get kind of, it scares them away, you know? So I
Yeah,
guess
fight or flight.
yeah,
Or
fight or,
freeze.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
freeze. Some people freeze and
yeah.
take 5 to
And you
the
never
head.
know. There'll be some guy who's all super good shape, looks like he's
Yeah.
good, and then you hit him with a stiff jab and he's already trying to give up. So you never really know by looking at him.
That's true.
Well, let's I actually want to touch on one thing. I want to know what it was like to it says in your bio there that on the show that Ken Shamrock helped you with your training on the show. What was it like with Ken Shamrock?
Well, I mean, like all those guys, he's doing the best he can, you know, with what he's got. He's just in there trying to run. I mean, and it's entertainment. It was like reality television, so
Like
it's
Jerry
not really
Springer.
real. It's not really reality. Well, it wasn't quite Jerry Springer.
Jerry Springer
it
when you
wasn't
get
there.
punched in the face.
It was Jerry Springer without the dialogue. If it was just the fights, no.
No.
I think they're a little better trained than
Yeah.
the Springer
For sure.
contestants.
I guess-
would guess.
I guess what I'm asking you is like you like when I watched that show, he had a different way of preparing the fighters for the for their fights, like diet and everything else. And if I remember correctly, he wanted you guys to on high protein diets when you guys actually had to
steaks.
cut weight, right?
Yeah,
And I mean you disagreed with him.
I don't know. He had a bodybuilding, background, and he's in pro wrestling and that type of thing. You've seen him. He
Yeah.
always comes into his fights. and
Shredded or big. Or,
He's a big guy,
Yeah.
conditioned. I mean, I'm not around trying to badmouth.
No,
him,
no, for sure.
No, but for sure.
Yeah, we had disagreements on the way things should proceed in certain ways. Yeah, it's it is what it is.
That's normal though.
And just one more. That's it.
Sure.
Now, did he teach you anything that you didn't already know, or teach you something new?
No.
No? I mean, he could have
No.
he was the specialist of the ankle lock. I figured he might have fucking no, Caleb. If you do
Come
it
on.
this way,
Well,
No.
Ken Shamrock doesn't have like a high level background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or in boxing or in Muay Thai or in
He's just
wrestling.
a scrapper.
Yeah.
But he's a
He
big
was an
athletic
old
guy.
school-
Was in good shape and
Yeah.
could do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world's most dangerous man.
Yeah.
That's right.
What wasn't that his name?
What can
Ken
you say?
Shamrock?
yeah, in wrestling, yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
man,
awesome.
he'd slap that ankle lock on those wrestlers. Holy
Yeah,
fuck,
it's
they would
a
scream for their
savage
heads,
toe
man.
Yeah.
Told.
Start
Oh,
twisting that
that's
toe.
Yeah. The scorpion deathlock? No, that wasn't it. What was it.
That's beautiful.
What was it called? Did he have a name for it?
I don't know. I just remember he
Remember?
would always throw these overhands and fucking just catch people. All right? Am I right?
I don't know. I never
Oh
watched.
no, that
I don't watch
overhand where
wrestling.
he hit that big guy,
Yeah.
where he hit that big Samoan guy, that like 700-pound guy with that overhand palm strike and fucking took him down
Yeah.
in one of the UFCs.
I never saw it.
Oh,
I don't
that
know.
was-
that
I
him?
feel like people
Yes,
weren't
that was
as
Ken
I don't know.
Shamrock. That
Sounds-
was big.
Sounds more like Boss
Beautiful.
Rutan.
No, it was Ken Shamrock. I
Yeah.
I never
remember.
watched it.
That's a beautiful.
I think it was
fucking story.
that era was a little more like street fighty.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
a little
absolutely.
Less martial
yeah.
artisty.
He wasn't super skilled in anything really, but he was good at
He's a good fighter.
overall fighting, right?
Yeah.
But whatever. Okay, Caleb. So now that you're like, you're basically a professional fighter, and did you have to like up your training, or did you like, now that you're in the game?
Well, at that time, I ended up training in Florida at American Top Team. I trained in Las Vegas a little bit. Trained in Coconut Creek, Florida. Got lucky and got hooked up with Howard Davis Jr. when I was down there.
Nice.
And I trained a lot with him and his son Daya. He was a Olympic gold medalist in the '76 Olympics on the same team as Sugar Ray Leonard. And was a great boxer, interesting guy. Learned a lot from him. They had some good coaches there just in general. And Ricardo Laborio, it's another great jiu-jitsu and MMA coach. And so it was a great camp. A lot of good people there. Dennis Kang hooked me up. Dan Lambert, one of the guys that ran it. I got to stay. He owns a Ramada Hotel down there.
Nice.
It was an interesting place. Whole floor just full of fighters and Brazilians and all these guys coming up training in the States, and we all lived there.
That's awesome.
Give everybody a break, like on the rent and food and that kind of thing. He's a good guy. He did a lot for the sport. A lot of people might not know who he is, but met a lot of good people there. Yeah, trained a lot down in Florida.
For those that don't know, like, what is American Top Team? You want to?
Oh, it's a gym that's put out, dozens and dozens of top MMA fighters, and
okay.
the guys who fought in the UFC, guys who fought in Japan, fought all over the world, and it was an interesting place. It's one of those places where you could go and you could have high level sparring at, for almost any weight class, and a lot of good people there. That's why a lot of fighters gravitated towards going to a place like that.
Nice.
And they were like a full package. You could get marketing, you could get management, you could get
Cool.
sponsorship money.
So they changed the game, or were other people doing this as well?
Well, there's other big camps in the
nice.
States, where people have come out of, and good training camps.
That's one of the biggest ones I've heard all about.
Yeah, well, in Canada, like there's TriStar,
Yeah.
and back east in Quebec, and then you got, a lot of big camps, and there's big camps in New Mexico, big camps in Florida, California.
So you went from rolling in California with the Gracies to top team in Florida?
Pretty much, I trained a lot there. Up here, we had a gym set up, kind of a private gym, too. And once you get to that level, finding sparring in your weight class and being able to work like that every day is not easy.
Absolutely.
I can imagine.
And especially in Canada, if you're from British Columbia, there was I guess 3 of the top ones to come out of here would be me and Rory McDonald and Dennis Kang. And I think Rory ended up mostly, as far as I know, like at TriStar. I don't know where else he trained. He's a great athlete, but coming from Kelowna, what kind of,
Not many people up in Kelowna.
Sparring is he going to get at a high level, all the time, and good coaching. So a lot of people end up traveling, and Dennis and I ended up at American Top Team. And I think that's just the way it is. It's hard when you get to that level to find that kind of, coaching and training.
because there wasn't that many people that can beat you guys either at that point. You're pretty much the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're like that, what are you going to do? You got to travel sometimes, right? A lot of great fighters from Canada. You'd see Georges St. Pierre. He'd be down training at the Wildcard Gym, learning boxing from Freddie Roach, or he'd be in New York doing grappling with the Renzo Gracie guys, or
wherever the best camp is.
Wherever the best camp is, or he's going to New Mexico to train with those guys. He's going to go, Yeah.
So I didn't know it was like that. I just assumed wherever GSP. Where does he train out of? What is it? TriStar, you said?
Well,
or
that
wherever?
would be kind of a home gym, but but clearly, if you watch him, he'd be going abroad to find high-level training in different areas from different people who are the best in their field.
Yeah, because the worst thing you can do is just beat up on a bunch of people in a certain area and then walk into the UFC and then go, oh, well, now I'm getting dominated.
And if you want to, be the best, you got to learn from the best. There's reasons why people go to someone like Freddie Roach to learn to box, to learn how to use their hands, or people go to you know, these to the Gracies.
All these different
to learn to
weapons you got to
grapple.
sharpen. Hey.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
It's top wrestlers to learn how to wrestle. That's what you got to do. And it's hard to get all those people under one roof.
Yeah,
You can't have
sure.
the best boxing coach, the best wrestling coach, and jiu-jitsu coach, and Muay Thai coach, and athletic trainers, and dietitians, and nutritionists all under one roof. It's not easy to put all that together.
for sure.
Yeah.
So now that you okay, now you get all the training and everything that you've got and you're ready to jump in there. What now you've had like fights here with like maybe minimal crowds and whatever. What was it like to like fight in Vegas with the crowds and the pay-per-view? Were you scared?
Well, I mean, there's always anxiety when you go into fight. That's a big thing that people don't focus on in training too. I've noticed, especially in these kind of smaller gyms or sports psychology is a big part of fighting. A lot of guys are really macho too, and they don't want to admit like that they get nervous but trust me, everybody gets nervous and dealing
Big
with
time.
dealing with the like somatic symptoms of stress, like your nervous system responds to stress in certain ways.
Yeah.
I've had people I've trained that were such amazing athletes, and they'd come to me before walking out to the ring telling me how tired they were.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, we were
it's
training.
crazy.
It's easy to fight on the street,
Yeah.
but if you gotta wait a year and all that anxiety
Dude,
and shit, that build up, for sure, I can see
Yeah.
that
I'm glad
happen.
you brought that up because that's a huge part of it, man.
Yeah.
I remember even like my case when I first started competing, like I would spar and I'd be like so good, so sharp sparring.
Dominant.
And then you'd go into a fight and there are all these people there and you'd be so nervous. And I would just go in there and I wouldn't even remember the fight. I would just be anxious, throwing as many punches as I could. All my training would just go
Almost
out the window. Like I'm lucky I won, but it was not good.
Oh,
So
I've
figuring
seen
out
that.
how to handle that is huge.
Yeah, I've seen that so many times. And guys are the worst at it. I mean, I find women are a lot more receptive when you're training them to getting in touch with that, you know?
Yeah, no one
But
wants to admit.
Guys
I'm
don't want to
fucking
admit,
scared.
yeah.
Oh,
And,
fuck.
and it's always
it's
the
an
toughest
ego
guys
thing.
that get the most scared.
It comes
And I
from
see
ego
these
because you're
guys,
like, I
they
gotta
don't-
win.
They don't want to listen, or they seem like they're listening when you're training them, and then we'll get there and the guy will fill like up half a garbage can just vomiting before the fight, sweating and
Yeah.
just nervous.
Yeah.
Legs are
White
oh,
as
my
a
legs are
ghost.
shot. I'm like, your legs are shot?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
This guy was sprinting up hills for hours, right?
That
before the
inner
fight.
ego.
And
That's
then,
what it
then
is.
just the walk out to the ring, now your legs are tired. And he's like, no, man. I'm like, you're just stressed out. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to get through. And he's like, no, man, my legs are shot. I can't do that. I'm like,
Oh
yeah.
boy.
It's that what if I lose in front of all these people?
Yeah, it's strange too. And your mind wanders to all these
For sure.
thoughts and takes you off of your game. That's one thing I know. Did you ever watch the Ultimate Fighter when George St. Pierre was the coach? And he was one of the guys, one of the few guys that actually brought people in to kind of practice rehearsing the walk out to the ring and the
Oh, yeah,
stress
yeah.
in the dressing room. And you get out,
Smart.
they introduce you and put Vaseline on you. And they
Huge.
call your opponent
Yeah,
out
yeah.
and they walk out to the ring and the introduction and then the fight starts.
I
the
needed that.
Yeah, the anxiety of waiting for it for 3 months or 6 months before your fight happens, and you're thinking about this guy
Yeah.
every day. Remember, Mike Tyson used to cry his eyes out before fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people would come in there, and then you got to walk out to the ring, and there's all that, and then the fight starts. It's
Yeah.
not like a street fight where all of
Yeah.
a sudden it's just like wham, it's like whack, it's on,
Yeah.
and then it's and then it's over as quick as it started. It's
Yeah,
not like
for sure.
that at all.
I can 100% agree with that. Like, I'll just switch topics here. I played poker in a couple tournaments.
Yeah.
And when you're sitting there playing with pros, it was the same fucking thing. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, anxiety. And I'm like, I'm not even doing anything, man.
Yeah.
I'm sweating. My fucking pits are wet. I'm like, what the fuck's
It's
going on
dangerous.
here? My heart's racing when I got pocket kings or aces. It was like, what the fuck?
dangerous.
It's crazy, right? So I can see, and that's not even getting into the ring where you could get physically hurt. And I'm
Yeah.
just sitting on the
Huge,
fucking
huge part
outside,
of it.
like playing poker for.
Mm-hmm.
There'll
Yeah.
be some guys that can spar like some of the best in the world, but they just can't do the big show. They just can't do it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I remember when that stopped.
Yeah,
Because in the beginning, nobody told me that.
yeah,
I never learned that.
yeah,
And then I had to teach myself. And then gradually it got to the point where
Where it
it
was
was
easier.
actually harder to get up for the fight than it was to make the anxiety subside.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would fall asleep in the dressing room before the fight and just take a
That's the
nap.
scariest thing I've ever heard in my life.
And
If I knew
then-
my opponent was falling asleep in the dressing room, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to die in here.
And then, yeah, you get up and you're trying to like just get yourself kind of up and motivated to get out there and get in there. You get so calm after a while where you don't even, it doesn't even phase anymore, which is
for sure.
which is an interesting thing too.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta, it's
Total
a balance.
opposite of
you
the
you get
spectrum.
instead of being too overamped, you're too underamped. You're just like too calm and relaxed, just like you're going in to order breakfast somewhere or something, just calm.
It's a different type of nerves. There's
It's like
no,
the mind of a serial killer, for fuck's
yeah,
sakes,
there's
you know?
exactly, because there's really no situation that puts that much pressure on you. So, like that, when you're getting in a fight with everyone you know watching and stuff. So,
Well, not just that, millions of people too.
Yeah.
Right? So
and that's I'm even talking from personal experience. That's just with amateur stuff. With his level of Stephen B, can't imagine the pressure.
After you stop too, it's hard to get up for other kinds of normal things. Like when you're doing that all the time and you're geared your whole life towards it and you're training all this stuff, and then you go in there and you have this big fight or a big moment, and then it's over.
That's a really
and then
interesting.
everything else seems really kind of
Wow, yeah,
quiet.
because you train your adrenaline levels to go to such a
I
high.
remember going into a meeting with some guys from Las Vegas that were managing poker players. He was getting managing fighters, and he wanted to do a video game. We went to an Activision, a meeting at like Activision in I think it was Minnesota. We were in Minnesota, and walking into the boardroom and just being really, really calm and coming across really well in the board meeting. And these guys are like, "How are you so calm in that setting?" Because I'm not a guy that's going into board meetings with these, all these.
it's not a
kinds
normal thing.
It's not a normal
their
thing
fight
what
night.
I do.
That's their
what
big
they
scary
do. They
thing,
do,
yeah.
and they were kind of nervous when we went in there.
for sure.
And I was really calm because I was like, "Well, this is fucking easy.
Yeah,
nobody's
one's trying to
spin
kill
kicking
me,
me
yeah.
in the head.
I
in the
could
middle
beat
of
all
this-
you guys
in the
up.
middle of this fucking board meeting in here, right?" So it just
That's
everything
cool.
else started to seem really kind of and then you miss it, you
for
miss
sure.
it. Just like any kind of, I guess,
Like
athlete
even
or
like a hockey
entertainer.
player. Or
Imagine a
something like that.
musician or something. You're getting up. Imagine being a musician where you're getting up in front of crowds of
Yeah.
That adrenaline
50,000
flow.
people or whatever, and everybody's cheering and singing and doing everything, and then all of a
Screaming for
sudden
you.
that's gone out of your life.
That's why they all get into weird shit, or because you
Nice.
gotta. That's why they all get into weird shit, or they they get into something a little bit more sketchy because it's like you're trying to chase that dragon. There's nothing that'll give you that big
That
adrenaline
high
push,
again,
that
for
high.
sure. Absolutely.
Like, and there's nothing with dire consequences like fighting. Like normally in life, you might be nervous for a meeting, but if you do poorly, like whatever,
you're not
gonna
fucking-
get knocked out.
Yeah.
So hey, when you're like when you were fighting and you had your cornermen there, and you and they're like, at the end of the round, you sit down, they're barking at you. Do you actually process what they're saying?
Yeah.
Like if he's like
because
1, 2, what I need,
Well,
I
those-
need you to stand up.
those people you end up becoming really close to, and if you're careful, you're going to choose people to have in your corner that you trust and you love, and they love you and they have your back, and
'Cause you're like a
so
team.
and then you work together and train together all that time.
Yeah.
So hopefully you get that kind of relationship. I know what I did not like was people that were overly excited in my corner.
Oh,
I don't want someone screaming at me all excited, because that makes me nervous.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes me, now I'm on edge.
Yeah, yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Because
If
he
you
can't
talk to
control
me-
his own emotions.
Yeah, if you talk to me, talk to me calmly. Yeah, I don't need you screaming and having an aneurysm in my corner when I'm already in here trying to be composed in the face of all this pressure and stuff.
for sure.
And you're yelling and freaking out in my corner, having a panic attack. That's the last guy that I need, right? And
I saw one clip with this guy in the corner. He's yelling at his fighter. He was going, "Use your retard strength!" He was screaming in his face, and I was
Oh
like,
my
"Man,
God.
that's not helping the guy at all."
no, I don't. I think that might have been a poor choice to put in the corner.
Words, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah.
You're in the entertainment business.
Yeah, but if you're in that rush of the moment, someone can just grab you and look at you and be like, "Hey, okay, so you just got a foot." Then you're like, you're zoned into what they're saying, and you can really pay attention.
Another thing that sucks that any corner man should keep in mind is don't give the guy too many instructions.
No, for
because
sure.
you're in there already. You know.
Yeah, you're
feeling
rattled
it.
already.
I don't need to have like, and then when he does this and he
Go
throws
up
this,
and
do
do-
that,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
then do this, and if he does this, do that, and by the time he's done, you don't remember anything that he said,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
bing,
yeah.
the round starts again.
Yeah.
It's like just give me a couple things to focus on, and then
then that's
shut
it.
up and stay calm and just calm me down.
Yeah, you're
and
there
get
for a
out there.
reason. You're a
Yeah.
professional. You're
Yeah.
gonna handle business.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to
Awesome.
complicate things. Complicate
I'm
things.
trying to bring
I
your
was
heart
wondering
rate
about
down.
that because they have like, yeah, you hear some of them going crazy, and a lot of the instructions they're giving their fighters. There's like, I wouldn't be able to process any of that if I was sitting down in that chair.
Multiple tasks. Do this. Do
That's
this.
a-
Do this. Do
That's
this.
what's funny
do
about
this.
it is that you train so hard to get actually good at the fighting part of it.
Yeah.
There's a whole other side you have to get good at, which is dealing with pressure, anxiety, and being able to take, instruction while you're in the heat of the moment. So that's like a whole other thing you got to actually learn too. And
That's true. And adapting. So I think one of the biggest things is you get in there, something's not working. You need somebody to come along that knows you well enough. And I mean, don't give me advice on what I should do. Tell me what you know I can do.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you got to know me as an athlete and a person.
What your capabilities
and what
are.
my capability is. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not really good at jiu-jitsu or wrestling or
Yeah.
Muay Thai or something, don't give me some weird random thing that
Yeah.
you think I should do in a
Ankle
situation
lock.
that I've
Yeah.
never trained to do,
Do a
and I
360
can't
head
do.
kick.
Sometimes guys give you the stupidest advice. It's like, really, man? Like I can't even do that. What are you telling me to do right now?
Because they're grasping.
Yeah.
They're grasping.
yeah.
Okay, so I just
Right.
want to go into like what was it like cutting weight?
Well, for me, I fought at 186 pounds, and for a lot of that time, I was walking around at about 200 to 210, around in there,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range. And so it took a while to figure out how to do it. A lot of people don't know how to do it well. I can tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. So it's
They
like
have
a
no
science.
idea. I've seen high level guys that you wouldn't even suspect that were cutting weight and just had no clue about how to put it back on. And well, I'll tell you the way a lot of people do it, or a lot of people did it. Like, first of all, these guys would be 10, 20, 30 pounds over the weight they were fighting at. So you can diet down over the course of a few weeks where you're reducing your caloric intake, but you're still training.
Yeah.
And then you can maybe lose, a few pounds of fat, a few pounds of muscle. You'll shrink a little bit, and you'll still be strong for the fight. But if you're cutting like 20, 30 pounds, you have no choice but to cut water.
Fluids.
Yeah, it's fluids. Now, fat doesn't hold water. So the lower your body fat percentage is, the higher your lean body mass, the more water you can cut for weight, pound for pound.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to be lean
Yeah.
and low body fat. And then all the water that you're losing is water coming out of your muscles. So you cut back all the salts, everything that holds water in your cells.
So no pizzas. Salty pizzas.
Salty pizza. Like the cheese. There's a bunch of reasons
Cheese,
why
salty
you wouldn't be eating pizza. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you'd cut back all the salts and everything out of your diet. People drinking like distilled water, and you
Yeah.
drink a lot of it, like gallons of it a day. And you flush all those minerals out so that when you do your water cut, you can cut more weight easily. If you have a lot of salt in your body, it's going to hold on to the water.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway,
So you weren't drinking Gatorades.
no, or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, then you get in. Most people cut their weight in a sauna or maybe a hot tub. I know I cut weight. Anderson Silva, watched him cutting it in a hot tub. Some people do it differently. Usually you get your heart rate up. They'd put on like a wet suit,
Those
plastic
trash
suit,
bag stuff.
and cover yourself up so you'll sweat more. Some people use something like
Tape the-
Alboline, that kind of thing, things to open your pores up, try to get you to sweat more. And
So like in
it
the
takes
movies
hours.
almost,
And
garbage
yeah, I would
bags.
get in
Yeah.
a hot tub like over
real.
104 degrees. Maybe I lose a pound. This is one thing that's really gross that everybody should understand. When you get in a hot tub, everybody in that hot tub with you
How
is
much
losing
skin do you
about
lose?
is losing about a pound of fluids of water in every 5 to 10 minutes for the first about hour that they're in the hot tub.
Oh wow.
So depending on how hot it is, if it's a hot tub, like
Yeah.
if it's over
So
104 degrees
toxins,
above,
skin.
oh,
everything.
the worst, the worst.
All the garbage.
When you think of the hot tub parties you've gone to, my God.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've cut 20 pounds multiple times.
Wow.
Over the course of 48 hours. Some people would use diuretics, that kind of thing. Also, rehydrating, and different states have different regulations, different provinces, different countries. But the fact is that most of those athletes at that level would rehydrate intravenously, whether they were allowed to or not.
Yeah.
And no one's really come along following you into your hotel room or wherever you're doing afterwards. And people will take like an IV and run IV bags and rehydrate that way intravenously.
Smart.
Because it's too hard to rehydrate orally.
Yeah, but why is that such a bad thing, though?
Well,
it's
I mean,
like,
just,
why is it
frowned
just the
upon?
weight cutting in general. It's it would be considered like cheating to rehydrate with an IV.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know,
So-
but the fact is, like, it's like anything, like on anything. And I mean, the reality of it is, if everybody's doing it in there, it's illegal, but everybody that was in there was doing it. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the reality in sports. I mean, think of the prevalence of steroids in
Yeah. For
sports
sure.
or
Lance
performance
Lance
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Armstrong.
say. Do you,
performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, these guys have it down to a science.
were
and-
PEDs a big part of like the game when you were coming in, or did
Oh,
you
of
see it all
course,
around
of
you?
course. Even more than, I mean, there was just event testing. So if you know you're getting tested at an event, a lot of people would be using steroids knowing, okay, well, I'm going to get tested on the 30th of this month, so I need to stop taking these particular
Wow.
steroids
Oh,
before
wow.
then or whatever. And if they have regular random testing, it's different. But,
Yeah.
I mean, you go through the list of people who've tested positive in the UFC
it's
for
prevalent.
performance enhancing drugs or,
It's almost
you know.
everybody.
Yeah.
yeah.
How dangerous is cutting weight?
Well,
Like, can-
it's hard on your kidneys. It's
Yeah.
hard on your liver. It's hard on your body in general. It's hard on your heart.
Yeah.
Your heart rate goes up as you get dehydrated. There's a lot of reasons why weight cutting is bad.
It's really bad.
But the thing is, just the advantage these people feel that they're going to have over their opponent when they get in the ring, if they know they're walking around 20 pounds heavier than them.
Oh yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
And that's what it is.
So
I
it's
mean,
more
it's just a
psychological
natural
That's what it
than
is.
anything.
It's a natural human thing. If you think that steroids are going to help you, if you think that being heavier than the person is going to help you, if you think,
Yeah.
whatever you think is going to help you under those circumstances,
do it.
a lot of people are going to do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are not. I mean, if you know the other guy's doing it, I fought guys, I'm not going to name names, but I fought guys that were cranking like crazy, man. I fought
Just
guys where I
jacked.
walked into the weigh-in and
You're
looked at the
like,
guy,
"Holy fuck."
and a whole different human showed up when I came there to fight him, like 20, 30 pounds heavier. Arms swole up as big as your legs after you rehydrated, right?
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the reality of the situation.
That's the fight game.
Yeah, and it's something a lot of people don't talk about or shy away from, but I mean, fuck, it is what it is. And
Yeah.
that's the reality.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Like you might be 180 and you might punch real hard for a 180, but you're not super tall, and then you'd be like, okay, well, if I was able to fight at 150, I'm gonna beat
You're
up
claw-
everybody.
Yeah, you're gonna.
So
kill
then
everybody.
you're gonna just push yourself to get down that 30 pounds to fight at 150. So-
And now with the amount of money that's fucking flowing around there, you want to be the top
Mhm.
guy in your division
Yeah.
or whatever. Because now it's like, millions of dollars.
I
right?
fought at heavyweight at 215 against guys who had to cut to 265 more than once. So this guy's cutting to get to the 265 pound top
Wow.
limit. He's cutting weight, and I'm walking around at 215 to come in
Wow.
there.
He's
and
a
fight him.
300 pound
Heavyweights different.
It's
So
like
there
a
you're looking
super
at
heavyweight.
There you're looking at what is that? A 70 pound, 60 or no, sorry, a 50 pound weight
Weight
difference.
difference.
That's after the weight cut. So when he rehydrated, if he was 280,
Fuck.
you know what I mean?
So you're going up
All of a
against
sudden
some
you're
big
fighting
boys.
a 65 pound heavier per human on the night, right?
yeah.
That doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
They
That's
should just
why
have
people
this,
cut.
the steroid Olympics, man. Let's see what fucking the human the humans can do.
That's
I want
what
to see
I'm sorry,
a dude
but
throw
I'm
a
sorry,
shot
bro,
put.
but I hate to burst your bubble, but the Olympics are the steroids.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
no, but I know
Like,
that.
when you,
but
Watch
when you
Icarus.
watch
They
you
should
know,
legalize
you
it.
didn't know
No,
that
no, no.
all these athletes were on steroids. I mean,
I
come
like
on.
no, I do know that, but
All
let's
the
let them
top guys,
juice
right?
it. Let's let them get as big as they can, as strong as they can, as fast as they can, and let's see a dude throw a shot put the length of a football field. And
That I-
But
and
what
let's
about
be
that
proud of
guy
that.
who's amazing at shot put naturally? He's worked his whole life, trained his
that's
ass
what
off.
the other
But then he
Olympics
doesn't
are
want to do
for.
steroids, you know?
We'll have one
Juiced up
Yeah,
Olympics.
one not
It may be.
juiced.
Maybe
what
that's the
what year
solution.
was
Fuck.
it where Russia was
Oh,
taken out
yeah.
of the
Oh yeah, the
Olympics
Icarus
for,
movie about that. I just watched
for
that movie.
steroids?
Yeah.
Where literally
recently,
everybody on
like-
the team pretty much was.
They were handing
Using
off pee
steroids.
samples
Yeah.
through wall
This is
holes
the
and
Olympics,
switching
too.
them
There's,
out.
I mean, it's different. There's advertising dollars involved, and I mean that kind of thing. It's a big corporate, thing.
Absolutely.
That's
But-
the thing about a lot of
But
these
really,
sports.
that's not even professional sports.
Yeah,
that's
Putin was
amateur
choked.
sports.
There, he like, you can't pull it. Fucking, you
No,
can't
a lot
do
of
this to us.
we've got Canadian athletes
Yeah.
testing positive
Everywhere.
for performance-enhancing drugs or
Yeah.
whatever at every level, right?
Yeah.
That's
Well, there's
just
so
the
much
reality
money
of the
involved.
world.
There's sponsorships.
And a lot of these guys don't have fallback plans. It's not like they can give up fighting and then be an engineer,
absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely.
So it's like whatever they can do to win and have a career, as long as they can have a career, they're going to do it because, they got
That's
mouths
all
to
they
feed.
got.
They got they
Yeah.
to make a name for themselves.
And a lot of these guys are coming from really rough, hard circumstances,
Yeah.
right? That's why you never hear, and in this corner, fighting out of Beverly Hills, California.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, fuck, man, this is awesome. Thank you very much, Kalib Starnes, a Surrey legend, UFC, tough guy, also a professional fighter and boxing trainer right now. And Cole, the Kitsilano bomber, thanks for coming out. This was great. Come anytime.
Say
All right, thanks for
Kitsilano
having me.
bomber one more time.
Kitsilano bomber.
Oh, slides right off your tongue that time, Bowie. That's awesome.
All because of Caleb. He turned me into a bomber.
That's
Oh, man.
awesome.